What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the February 26th edition of the POWLAX podcast / live stream. Hope everyone's having a tremendous week. I know I am. Wednesday definitely snuck up on me for sure. I'm really excited for this. What would you call this? I'm excited for this live stream, this podcast, because we're going to be going over quite a bit of things that I think are going to be really pertinent to the high school age group as well as the Parker. I see that you're on. You've got to get me that info because I need to make that video. Sorry, that's another thing. I need Parker to send me something because I haven't made his video yet, and I really want to make sure I get that done. So this is going to have a lot to do with high school. This is going to have a lot to do with that. Like, I know it says the 13 to 14-year-old age group, but for the most part, this is the same types of things. Like, the players are capable of understanding and knowing just as much as they would be with the high school age groups. And if you've ever seen the World Series of Lacrosse, right, the Lacrosse World Series that's played all the time, those kids are ridiculous. Like, they seem to be just these incredible athletes, these incredible kids who've been playing lacrosse their entire lives. Team 91, I think, won it last year. I think it was Team 91 Maryland. But so when you watch those teams play, you see that they are good and they're better than a lot of the high school teams in Colorado. Like, those 8th grade or 7th grade teams could beat the majority of JV teams in Colorado. And so as much as we're talking about the 13 to 14-year-old age group, we're not going to be talking about those teams as much as we're going to be talking about the average team that parent coaches are going to have at those age groups. So, but all in all, I think we're going to hit a wide variety of people who are going to get a lot of value out of exactly what they should spend their time on and why. And we're going to do it in the same way that we did it last week, where we're going to have we're going to go over everything instead of we're not only going to go over the parts that I didn't hit in the ones that are already happening. YouTube, hopefully this doesn't take me out of the live stream. I needed to copy and paste everything that I had put in the description. So hopefully that won't pause anything. Okay, so couple quick announcements before we get started. We're gonna make these quick. So if you're looking for balls, get pro balls. If you're looking for something to put in a goal while you're shooting, definitely get flip goalie goals. We just got a bunch of them for our teams. So we just started our Cougar Camp is what we call it. It's essentially a camp the week before the season actually starts because we're not allowed to practice early, but we can create a non-mandatory camp the week before and we can get started early. And so the majority of teams in Colorado do this. Problem is it's been snowing, right? So it snowed on Sunday night. We didn't get it Monday. We didn't get it yesterday. Hopefully it'll be sunny enough to melt some of the field off today, and hopefully we'll be outside tomorrow. But one of the cool things is that we got both gyms, which is huge. It's humongous that we got both gyms to use all week instead of having to go into, a classroom and do chalk talk, because the boys are actually playing. They're not just listening to us talk about the sets we're going to run. They're actively playing. And so that has been probably the most exciting thing, because we're like into the season. We're started now. And as a coach, like many of you, I'm getting all geeked up into the season, and it's extremely, extremely exciting. And so one of the cool things that I'm hopefully going to convey, probably not today, probably in the next one, is how to ensure that if you are inside, you can do the same things that you would outside. So the practice plans that I had built were for being in a classroom in a hallway and then being outside. And I'm able to use the exact same practice plan that I would use outside for inside if you just know the proper way to do it. And so I'm getting away with some stuff. Like we're doing a couple of clear overviews, like how our clear works, what we're actually doing. And the players are going to have to envision on a basketball court what it will look like on the field. So we're going to have to go back and kind of manage that. But for the most part, we're doing a lot of the exact same things. So before we get right into the 13 to 14-year-old age group, we've got a couple of things. People have comments, so we're going to answer those, because then once we get into the flow of things, we're not going to be answering some of those. So good morning, Michael. What's going on, man? Hope you're doing well. And then we've got at what age would you start training offensive plays and defensive packages? Is third grade too young? Yes, third grade is too young. I want to say third grade is 8-year-olds. So they're right on the border of being able to comprehend the idea of themselves and another player. So I would say no. I think that you can teach them little tactics like give and goes. I think you can teach them how to play good individual defense. But at third grade, they don't need to be doing plays. They don't need to be doing sets. They need to be instructed on how they should react when they get into positions regarding one other player. So I want to say, someone can probably help me with this as we're going. Someone can probably tell me what the recommendation of the size of the field and the number of players are for 8-year-olds. But I'm pretty sure that you're going to be on, the max will be 7-on-7. And when you're 4-on-4 on either side of the field, it's more important that a player understand how to react to a ball carrier than it is to say, you go here, you go here, you go here. Because each one will find their own way. And as long as you give them an overview of how to work with one other player, they're going to benefit a lot more than being into a structured set. So I recommend the 2-man game video for that, just for coach understanding of all of the options an off-ball player can have in relation to the ball carrier for the offensive set, and the defending 2-man games video, because it will teach, what is the point of sliding? What is the point of switching? What are we looking at in order to find what we want? So I definitely would not recommend running sets. I do have some 7-on-7 offense videos. The Y offense and the up pick nations, and those will give you a very basic set to go off of. But for the most part, I recommend, if you are going to use them, teach them in a manner where players are playing based on small concepts, not based on plays. Like if you're going to pick, but teach the pick, teach all of those things. Okay. So now we're going to get into our 14U age group. So, like I mentioned before, as we kind of started the podcast, this age group is one that's very, very tricky, especially in Colorado. I'm sure it's tricky all over the world. I get emails from a lot of people asking questions, and the thing that I find most surprising as someone who's from Colorado is that there are pockets out east that don't have good lacrosse. Like, we've got people from Virginia, from places in New York, from places in Maryland, who, like, when I'm being from Colorado, I think to myself, out east lacrosse is everywhere, but it's really not. There are tons of communities that have dad coaches who are, just trying to learn the game, trying to make sure that their kids have a good time. And, there are a lot of big challenges when you're growing the sport, because just like any sport, you're going to have new players coming into the game at any time. And that is the first thing that I want to address in this 14U video. As a coach, we must orient ourselves in the correct manner. One of the questions that I get all the time, it's probably the question that I get most of all, is it's not really a question I get, but it's the thing that I always need to start with first. So in order to be a good coach, you have to have a direction. In order to have the right direction, you have to know your team. And what I find that most coaches don't do well, and that I don't do well a lot, is we have to understand whether we are orienting towards the season or orienting towards the life of the player. And when coaches get caught up in trying to win a season, they get very, very frustrated, and I've been here many, many times, and they teach things that they shouldn't be teaching based on the idea that that player or those players must be in some certain way. They must do a certain thing in order to win that season. And they are completely mitigating the life of the players. And so the first thing that has to be addressed, as if you're a coach anywhere, is what is your intention? Is your intention to set them and put them in a right place at the end of the year so that they can go do and be the best player that they can? Or is it to win your league, your championship, so that they feel good about, where they are and all of that? Because those are two very, very different things. You can put kids in a system that will work against your group. So case in point, let's go with, actually we'll go with the 13U. Yeah. Okay. So at this age group, the odds of midfielders understanding and being able to turn other midfielders back before the midline as they ride are basically zero. One-on-one in open field with a lacrosse stick and not being able to tackle clearly because we're playing lacrosse, not football. Players aren't going to be able to stop an athletic kid from running over the midline. So are you going to not teach it clear because it will allow your players to be more successful? There are many coaches that do it, many high-level coaches that do it because it works and they don't have to spend time on it in practice. But if your intention is to make them the best lacrosse player they can be, by age 12, 13, they have to know how to clear. They have to know how to banana out. They have to know how to be there as defensemen. And even if they don't do it in the right way, it doesn't necessarily matter. Like, you can have that same midfielder go out into the clear formation, stop, turn, get the ball and run it out. But as long as you're not ignoring everybody else, they're going to develop as a player. So that small distinction in the overview of how you're going to coach is unbelievably important to what you are going to do with all of the rest of the stuff we talk about. So from my end, I believe in the idea of making sure that the players that I coach are better lacrosse players at the end of the year, every single one of them. And I will not sacrifice winning a game for doing things the right way. So many times this has pissed off a lot of my players because I will tell the ref that we are offsides before the ref sees that we're offsides. And they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, it's integrity. You have to do it. Like, if a ball goes out and I know my team kicked it out and the ref tells it's our ball, I will tell the ref, no, it went off our guy. And that, as an example for our team, shows the integrity of what it means, because it's just a game. That's the bottom line. And if we can facilitate an environment where the players will enjoy their time and they will learn how to interact with others, we've done a good job. But so that mode of thinking for me has to be first, especially when you're dealing with this age group of players, especially when you're dealing with high school players. Now, as we get into kind of the schematics of what we're going to go over, I'm going to move quickly through things that we covered in the 12U video, because as an overview, I don't want to go through the same things twice because there are big items that we want to hit as we get into some of the more advanced concepts that you could be sitting at. So the next thing I want to address, which we're going to address again in the coaches Q&A live stream that we do after this, is what do you do with all of the brand new players, right? So So Your Kid Wants to Play Lacrosse series, the third video in that series is going to be how you can help your player at home. And it's basically going to be an overview of all of the drills and things you want to do to make sure that when they're at home, they can pick up their skills. Because when it hits springtime, it's not so much individual practice time anymore. It's how can we unite as a team. And it's very frustrating for coaches, I mean, for everyone, when you have players who don't know how to throw and catch, who want to just try the sport, because you want to give them a good time. You don't want to ostracize them from the sport, but you need players. Well, the vision of how things are going to go is directly related to whether the players know how to pass and catch. And when you have brand new players, it's hard to know exactly what you want to do with them. And so when you do have players that are like that, I think the biggest key is to make sure that when they have time to work on their own in practice, like say it's a passing drill, is that you are open to the idea of teaching them separate things. So I remember when I was at Vista, I was often placed with players who were brand new, and we would do shuffle quick sticks for hours. And it's funny, Chris Hess mentioned it's called the Thompson Trot. So one of the things that new players, I even had a new player yesterday, I didn't have to, but I was explaining to him that you don't have to cradle as much as you think you do, right? You really just want to be able to get your stick up to pass, and then you want to be able to move the stick away from defensive players and protect it. It doesn't have to be this humongous cradle. But so one of the things to teach catching, the best way to teach catching is to do shuffle quick sticks, because it teaches how to catch into a loaded spot and then move the ball. So you teach soft hands, you also teach passing. And so even if you don't have the ability to have an extra coach go with brand new players to teach them, because that's what I was doing. I was coaching football players who had come to lacrosse, who were great athletes, how to throw and catch using shuffle quick sticks, because they weren't advanced enough to go into the other drills. But so the ability to give them other things to go do is paramount, because you don't want them to be dropping every pass in the drill, not because the other kids are going to get mad at them, but because you want them to find some success as they go. And so case in point, we have a player on our team right now, unbelievable athlete. If you're on my TikTok, he's the one I was talking about when I said, I don't care that you can't catch the ball. I care that you cut like you think you are going to catch the ball, right? So don't be worried about dropping it. Like, I know you're probably going to drop it because you've never played, but he, in practice yesterday in a 4v3 drill, caught the ball, made a nice little shimmy move, and moved it in the most completely un-lacrosse-like manner ever. So you think about accepting the ball across your body. He just put his stick out, ball hit the stick, he dropped to his hips, gave a little shimmy, and then he threw a lever pass, because that's kind of where his hands have originated and how he knows how to get the ball off. But it went right to the right place. And so as he started to work, we would often, as he's been a very dedicated player too, because, he's just that kind of person. But man, the fact that he had worked on his own and wasn't forced into some drills that he was a little over, it was outmatched for him, like passing drills, how he got to really focus in on his own things really helped him. So if you have brand new players, I definitely recommend, while you're doing passing drills, give them their own drills where they are touching the ball 5 times as much as maybe other players are, because it's some other kind of set. Also, as we go through this, as we divide up the practice, we want to make sure that we are teaching skills for, I'd say, about 30-40%, and we're playing for 60 to 70%. And you can create drills, and we'll go over some new ones that I'm going to share. I forget who it was. The Pace College coach. I watched the IMLCA video of his on Monday, and I've been putting in some of the stuff that he's been doing. And man, it's just like the Farmingdale coach. Like, the drills that they do allow the players to play, and they find their way through what you want to teach them naturally. And so just some very, very cool sets. Okay. Hopefully that all made sense. Hopefully we are all on the same page, where as I'm talking through this, I'm going to try to talk through the idea of how we want to use these drills so that we are creating and facilitating a good experience for players for the future, not necessarily just for this season. And so here we go. So we're going to go through some stick work ones real quick, and then we'll go through, we'll just keep going through it. So I think you have to have partner passing, throwback line drills, clear passing, and then spike, stick work, and passing drill. Those are the 4 videos that I recommend. If you are on YouTube, you will see these linked in the description of this video. So partner passing is the best one for touches because you're going to get touches. Like every player should touch the ball every 3 to 5 seconds. Obviously drops are going to take a little longer, but that's kind of what, it's 2 people passing, and you can do that standing, you can do that moving, you can integrate all of the different dodges, yada, yada. Throwback line drills are huge because you want players to understand how to free their hands. You can also teach defense with it. Then clear passing, you're obviously going to teach your clear. Spike, stick work, and passing drill is great because you're going to teach players how to V-cut, how to make sure they're getting open for the ball, so that when the ball comes on your offensive end, you understand pressure, you're able to roll away from pressure, and you're able to play quickly. Cool. So those are if you can just do those 4 stick work drills, that's awesome. If you want to do star drill, I get it. I like star and swing it drill. If you are not able, so here's a rule that I think every youth team should follow. If you're not able to get 2 balls into your star drill, don't run it. Run spike drill. Run something else, because you're wasting your time if you have 1 ball and say 15 players, and as you're moving through, you only have 1 person touching the ball and you have 15 players. That's way too little. Run partner passing, because then half of your players are touching the ball at, every moment. And so I'm not a fan of star drill unless you are using it to teach concepts that you really want. Like, I get that it's easy to run, but you want your players to touch the ball more, and there are better options. Okay. Let's see. So now we're going to run through, well, no, let's not run through that yet. That's going to be last. Okay. Let's start with the faceoff. Okay, so we'll start with the faceoff. We'll go to defense, then we'll run through to offense, and then throughout we'll talk transition and all of those things. So on the faceoff, watch the faceoff plays video. More than making you run those plays and call them what I call them, it's important that players understand how to manipulate the wings so that when they're in the game, and whether we win or lose the faceoff, we give ourselves the best possibility of going through it. Now, one of the things you're going to have happen that I really like this video for is a lot of times, because we're running FOGOs, which is face off, get off, where a player will face off and then get off the field, some players don't stay on the field. If you're a wing, you have to stay on the field with those players, because if you leave, they're going to have an immediate double. So at the 13 to 14 U age group, players need to know that. They need to understand that. And that video will help you with those things. So let's say we lose the face-off, and now we are getting into the defensive end. We're not going to talk about marrying, which is essentially subbing, where you go with one of their players, because for the best of the best, that'll be there, but for most people, it won't. So for transition defense, you can use the fast break, trailer break, slow break videos to kind of teach the concepts. But here's your concept on transition defense. Buy time. Don't slide upfield. Those 2 should allow you to not give up a lot, right? You want to get into the middle first. You want to match up inside out, but you don't want to slide upfield, and you want to buy as much time as you can, because the more time you buy, the more of your players can get into the defensive end. Excuse me 1 second. Got a little bit of a runny nose. So that'll be your transition. Now, on the defensive end, at this level, players should have an understanding and can build an understanding of all of the defensive principles that we are going to have for our high school age group, meaning you have to have a ball call, left, right. You have to have a I'm the one slide call, meaning you're either hot, you could say one, you can say I go. Then you have to have backside calls, which, you can call 2, you can call I'm in. It doesn't really matter what you call it. The key is that you're filling a role where if the first player slides, the second player must account for the player who slids player, right? So with that, these players can understand that. Now, if you have a bunch of brand new players, you're going to have to teach this over and over and over and over again. And the key to teaching it is to show the players what they can do. And what I mean by that is you don't want to yell at them and tell them, you know, Billy, get in your two, Billy, get in your two, and like scream at them. What you want to do is you want to say, hey, Billy, what is Mark's call? And if he's learned it, because you've run the 500 die drill, the what do you call it? The Salisbury call drill, all the building defense drills that are tagged. So let's just go through them. Line bump drill teaches crease slide. Touch the hat approach drill. That's more of just an individual that's an individual defense drill. Triangle approach drill is also an individual defense drill. 500 die drill, Salisbury call drill. Those are both slide and recovery drills. And then you have your triangle show drill, which will teach all of the concepts of a near man adjacent slide or crease slide defense. You can do all those defenses with those videos. But so when you're talking and when you're communicating to the players, you don't want to scream at them and tell them you're two, you're two, you're two. You want to show them what it is they're trying to accomplish. You want to say, hey, Billy, what position is Chris in? And he says, well, Chris, okay, we're crease slide. He's in the middle. He's guarding the guy in the middle. Okay, so crease, he's hot. Okay, he said, cool. So what's he probably going to do if, Sam gets beat? And he says, okay, well, Sam gets beat. Okay, well, so he's going to slide. Okay, so well, who does that leave in the middle? He's like, oh, his player. It's like, okay, well, what are you? He's like, oh, I'm two. And so are you just going to leave his player in the middle? And he's like, oh, well, no. It's like, oh, I get it. Okay, so that's what two means. I'm going to say, oh, okay, I've got to get him. And that's what they do, and you got to walk them through it. Because players, like, it's so hard to get a player to track their own guy. That's why everyone's running zone. So if you're not prepared to play offense against the zone, do. Because the Wesleyan zone video that I have is the video that is getting the most watch right now. Everyone's watching it. Like, I want to say it's getting triple the amount of time being watched as any other video that I have right now. So if you're not going to have some kind of zone offense, you probably should, because if you're at the high school or this level, people are going to run zones against you. But so it's hard enough to get players to watch backside players and run with them, that once they do that and then they have to worry about another guy, it's very difficult for them to, make that gap. But if you can walk individuals through it enough, a lot of players will start to get it, and then they'll start doing what you want. But you have to walk them through it in whatever way they need. Okay. So, so those are the ones that we're going to use to build defense. We should have a defensive concept. I recommend teaching adjacent slide stuff first, because you're always going to have a slide if you run an adjacent slide defense. You're not always going to have a slide if you run crease. We kind of talked about that last time. So the one video you need to watch for the defense to learn the entire set is the near man defense, but it will also cover the crease and adjacent slide defenses within it. Okay, so there's our defense. So now we're on the defensive end. We're going to move upfield. So for the clear, I have two clearing videos. One's the 4-3 alpha clear, and the other is the 4-3 clear. And essentially the only main difference is on the 4-3 clear, we're going to put 4 middies across the midline. They're all going to come back to the ball in their own spaces. And then they're going to, like, one of them has to be open because we have 7 players on the defensive end, our end, and they should only have 6, right? But if the goalie has the ball, then we need to know what to do after that. That's where the alpha part comes in, and, it'll just teach you kind of where to go from there. At this level, like I mentioned, as I was kind of describing, don't sacrifice the life of the player for the season. Is poles need to know where to banana out to. A pole needs to know to go off box if that's where you want him to go. If you want him to stand right in the middle of the field and be the first outlet, you can. I don't recommend it. I think that's where a midi needs to go, but you can do that. So then as you are, once you're clearing and you push it upfield, they obviously have to know all the rules to all of these things, and as they get upfield, now we're into our transition offense. So we are going to watch the same exact videos for the transition offense that we did for transition defense, because it doesn't make sense to teach one and not the other, because They both affect each other, obviously. So whereas the defensive job in transition is buy time, the offensive job is get covered, which is a term from the pace coach. I really should have put his name somewhere. I should probably look it up. It's get covered, which means draw, right? It means draw. Don't wait for the defenseman. And then once you're played, pass it. We're going to pass into the rotation, and we're going to try to see skips through as players are rotating. Those are your basic ideas, and if you want them set out and scripted, that's fine, and that's kind of just what you have. And because it's the most important part of the game and people have to understand and know to do these most, we are going to shortly cover all of the transition drills that you should be doing every single day. These should make up the majority of your practice in my mind because they teach stick skills. When I say stick skills in the beginning and we went over, the drills I wanted to do, that doesn't mean you have to do those drills for 30% of your practice. What that means is you want to make sure that players are getting a lot of touches during that time. So you can use these drills in that section as well. So, the ones that are going to really teach your transition are the Duke drill, Duke scrapping drill. So it's Duke transition drill, I think, on YouTube. West Jenny. And those are going to be your transition drills that I have videos of. If you have the ability to watch any of the IMLCA convention videos, we're going to go over these in the coach's Q&A. But so there are a couple drills that are just so fast-paced, so awesome. If you have the opportunity to watch that, definitely watch that one because it was a great video. So when we are teaching transition defense and offense, you can have them set up in the exact thing all the time, but what we want them to realize is we want them to almost not know what's going to happen, see something happen, and then move the ball to wherever they need to move the ball, and they should just kind of have their eyes up. So if you teach it in the same way every single time, and you might want a certain player in a specific spot, and that's fine, but they need to feel the game versus be told what to do. And so that's where your Duke drill is going to help a lot, Duke scrapping is going to help a lot, and West Jenny will help a lot because even though it's similar each time, it's also different. Now, when we're talking about attacking in a set, which is what we're about to get into, that was transition. This is more so for the back end of your offense after you draw a slide. You've got sideways West Jenny. You've got 3v2s to 4v3s, which is a continuous drill. And then your 3v0s, 3v2s, 3v3s, those are kind of building in your offense. And your sideways West Jenny. So those are going to be more of, and your Duke scrapping drill. Making sure that you are attacking with, after you draw that slide, that you're recognizing the advantages, that you're stepping into gaps on the backside, and that you're drawing and dumping in a quick manner where you're not just taking your time, because the more time you take, right, what's the defensive drill in transition? It's buy time. You need to move fast. You need to get covered. You need to make sure that if your guy is sliding, that you know about it. And so, not that you know about it, that you know about it, and that you are putting yourself in a position to stay dangerous. Because scoring in settled sets doesn't happen much, which is why most of our practice should be dedicated to transition style drills. But you still need to know that. So, enough on that spot. We're like right on time for this video in my head, so that's awesome. So now we've got offense. And so I was asked a question which was basically, how do you attack in your 21-12 set? Like it basically, what was told to me was that the video explained it well and it divided up the principles well, but how exactly am I supposed to attack the short sticks and in a method that is, more beneficial than I think it was running a 2-2-2 pairs set where you're pairing the crease player and the exterior player on both sides, and then you're running mirrors and your low players are on pipes. So my answer was, what's the goal of the set, right? For 21-12, a lot of the goal of the set is to simplify it in a way where players are going to start to understand how to move, and your objective is to teach the motions that they can make within the concepts of the offense. And so regardless of what type of 21 motion, what kind of 12 motion, what kind of 12 and 21 rotations you want to run, the key is that you teach the concepts, and you can always add in the back end of how we want to attack. So how does everybody attack? It's find the short stick, find the best matchup, and attack that matchup. Now, what 21-12 allows you to do is it allows you to teach, let's take that exact same offense, the 2-2-2. We are going to attack with a up pick with our 21 set, which is essentially you're up picking from the crease to either midi, and we're going to fade the backside midi, and you're going to get your big little or your little in that spot. So there's two midis high, which means one of them is most likely going to have a short stick. We are going to dodge with that player, and we're going to up pick from the crease, right? Now, because we're in a 21 from the players at X, we can have them sneak, we can have them rotate. It really doesn't matter what you have them do. What matters is that it fits the scheme where you're allowing the player who is dodging to go either direction, and then they have the ability to dodge either way, and everyone can react to what they're doing. But so you can teach them, and you can make sure that they are attacking the short sticks and creating the same types of offensive sets. The whole idea is that then they are able to figure out where they are quicker because the terms are easier to understand. So once you ran that up pick, you would then most likely, you'd actually probably get back into your 21 set rather than your 12. That's exactly it. I am referring to Tom Mariano. So yes, Tom, and so apparently he's been coaching in the pros. He mentioned it quite a bit, but man, his presentation at IMLCA was excellent. Like the drills that he taught were great. We ran the drills yesterday. Not yesterday. Yeah, no, we ran the drills yesterday, and the kids liked them. They really enjoyed them, and it was something that they didn't know. But we got to play fast, and in a gym too. That's the thing, is we were inside as well. So that was, if you can find something that you find beneficial to do while you're in a gym, go with that all day. Okay. So for our offense, the videos we could have just said is the 21-12 motion offense, right? You've got your dodge, follow, float. You've got your dodge, clear through, follow. You've got your Duke motion. And so because we are now in this age group where we can start putting in, what would you call it? We can start putting in better offensive sets. Now you're opening up for the 2019 Penn State offense, which is a lot of picking. It's a lot of moving. It's essentially a box offense with 5 players above the goal and 1 player behind who can press in either way. And so because we can run a complete and modified offense, we can also teach it in smaller groups, right? So you're not going to teach the Penn State offense with all 6 guys all the time. You're going to teach it in their groups. You're probably going to teach it in 4v4s because you can have the picking wherever you want it, and then you can have the backside movement. And the reason you go 4v4 versus 5v5 is because when you're 4v4, you show the 2-on-1 backside much better than if it's a 3v2 backside. So let's say you got your 2v2s, right? You've got your 2s on both sides, and you pass down, you pick down. Once you draw a third player to that side, it isolates your 2v1, which will show players, oh, okay, now I'm reading the slide go. I'm understanding how I'm going to fill lanes, et cetera, et cetera. You can definitely run the Cuse offense with this age group. I ran it with our 8th grade team last year. We were very successful with it. That one I really like because it's scripted. It allows for players to learn the ideas of spacing, and it gives you the whole alley to dodge. So you can be very successful. It also allows you to sweep, and that also adds in your Duke fade and follow offense, which you can also run at that level. The key to the Duke fade and follow offense, though, is that this one I really like because everyone's always dangerous, and if you have players who are at the level where they can read whether a player is sliding to them and deliver a ball quickly, that can be an extremely dangerous offense to run, just because if you have the tools, I mean, it's good to teach the tools anyway, but man, if you have one player who understands how to distribute and keep his head up, you can make everyone else so much more dangerous because they're understanding how they need to move off ball. So one of the hardest concepts to teach is off ball movement. And well, it's not hard to teach a player to cut. It's hard to teach a player when to cut and why, because a lot of them, they just don't quite, they don't recognize. So in our game on Saturday, we had a player who, which I'm pumped, we have one more game this Saturday too, I think. But it was the end of the game. We're getting end game doubled, but they didn't even do it right. The goalie didn't even come out, which was weird. But so we had a guy open, and he didn't know for like 5 seconds. Like, he's literally standing at the top of the box for 5 seconds. The ball is then thrown up to him after he should have known way before that his guy left him. And he just snipes a corner, right? Which wasn't really what I would have wanted him to do, because against other teams in the spring, we're going to need to the 15 seconds is more valuable than the point. If you have 45 seconds left and you're, say, up by 2, like that point, or say you're up by 1, the point to get to 2, that 15 seconds is way more valuable than that 1 point to go up by 2, especially with, like, let's say we're playing Creek and we have, Creek's Faceoff kid is unbelievable. And so I want to say he's one of the Adrenaline All-Americans from this year, but like, that kid can score in 15 seconds, even if we put our poles low on the faceoff and try and drop in. But so that was just kind of that's me getting sidetracked. Okay. So we're still in offense. Let's touch on man up, man down, because, let's hit the ride first, then we'll go man up, man down last. And we'll kind of conclude after we hit those. So for the ride, I mentioned earlier that for most teams, they're going to be able, like, one athletic kid's going to be able to run through a couple kids, and that's partly coaching error. It's partly the personalization error. Not personalization. It's the coaching error, because we're not teaching players how to run with. So a question that I got from one of the Patreon members was, how do I teach third grade football players how to make contact without telling them to tackle, right? And my answer for this is teach them how to run with. Teach them how to play cornerback when a wide receiver is running a route. And I know, Jack, isn't it? It's so nice. Sorry. Jack from Two Wolves Performance was like, this is the stuff I love to nerd out on. And I'm like, totally. That's why I do this. It's great. But so basically, you're always going to have that athletic midi who can run it out. But if you can teach a clear or a ride that will prevent that, it's going to help everyone get better, because once they realize that doesn't work, you're going to have to teach the rest of the clear, right? And so the ride that I like for players, for anyone who is 14 and under, that I like for them to do is a 3 deep ride, because, like, okay, so if you're trying to win, which most teams are, if you're trying to win, you're always going to pressure the ball, right? So it doesn't really matter if you pressure the ball. If you can pressure the ball and you can win it back without them having to pass it, good. But for the most part, I really like the idea of dropping everyone but that guy, so that we can double the players who move upfield, and we can cover upfield, and then we can probably double a player who is trying to run the ball out. So if all of our players know to kind of gang up on everybody in the middle of the field, because you think about what's the objective of offense? The objective of offense is to spread out the defense, make them slide, so that we have more room to operate inside, so we can get better shots. And if you think about this in terms of a clear versus a ride, if we can condense our defensive people right with the midline, we can now double in those spaces and cause a lot of turnovers. And so if you are having a team who is just using the shorty low clear, giving it to a shorty and running it out, have all your players drop and then double that player. Now, middies are going to have to know if a midi or someone comes over, they have to pick up that player. But for the most part, you're going to have a lot of opportunities to double. You're going to cause 2-3 turnovers a game. And if you've been running the transition drills in practice, now you're in your transition drill and you're going to be able to shoot and score a lot. Like, so I like the 3 deep ride, and I believe so. And you can definitely run a 10-man with these groups if you have players who, basically if you have a goalie who's willing, because at this 8th grade level, even at the club level, there aren't a lot of players that can throw the ball 70 yards. If you're at the high end, of course they can, but for most teams, like for most groups, you could run a 10-man easily at the 7th, 8th grade level. And so I think the 10-man video references the 3-3 because it's the easiest way to sit in a 3-3 and then bump up the 10-man. At least it is in my mind. I haven't had anyone, show me anything that's better. But so that's your ride. So now I'm going to basically say the same exact thing on the man up side of things, which is, let's just make sure I'm going through everything. I probably didn't get in any plays. You can definitely run Denver. We're going to go over the tricks. And so let's do man up, man down real quick. So I didn't know this was a real thing. This was like a big thing. But on man down, if you run box and 1, don't rotate to a 4-man. At least that's what I've been hearing and like kind of seeing. Instead of rotating in a 4-man, so if you imagine you have your box. So you got your box. Hopefully this will look okay. Okay, so you have your box and you got your 1 inside. If you draw one of the players in the box up to the middle, right, and then you rotate the bottom guy down, instead of rotating the bottom over, you rotate the middle guy down. Hopefully that makes sense for people who are watching the video and people who are, listening on the podcast. But so I really like that because once the top left, well, let me think of how you guys are viewing it. Once the top right defenseman gets drawn up, the top left defenseman should basically, no. So from your view, it'd be top left. Yeah. So once the top left defenseman gets drawn up, the bottom left defenseman gets drawn out, the top right defenseman should be able to get down into the crease to cover the crease man, which is why the crease man can come out. Now, I was thinking about it in 3v2 sides schematics, but as I was talking to my high school coach, Coach Genova, yesterday, he was saying that was pretty standard as far as going from a box and 1 into a 5-man. That I've seen where once the 5th pass happens, you rotate out from the crease. We ran that at Vista, but I'd never really thought about it as far as the 3rd. I always thought a box and 1 would always hit a 4-man, but so I think that would help a lot of younger man down defenses. So here's my thought process. It's, if there's 2 players high, you run a box and 1. If there's 3 players high, you run a house. I really like the house because you always know who's at fault, and you are man down, so, but your ability to force the hardest pass is what I really like about running a house versus box and 1. I also like the 5-man, and I don't have a house video. I don't have a box and 1 video. Those you're kind of just going to have to go off of other stuff from that. I do have a 4-man and a 5-man rotation video. The 5-man rotation, you could essentially build into a house either way you'd want to go, but not if there's not 3 players high. But a 5-man against a 3-3 is a house. And so technically the players will stay in the same spots. So that's man down. On man up, the one man up video I recommend for all coaches is the reading man down defenses video, because it teaches you how to recognize specific motions and movements that the defense makes that will tell you what looks are coming. And so, and then collegiate teams will totally screw with that, like Duke, who runs a 5-man rotation until any carry is put in, and then they zone. So, you can always mess with certain things, but the key is that it'll teach you the basics of all of the man down defensive sets, and it'll kind of show you what is, what's a good thing to run against it? What looks are going to be there? But so at this level, your 3-3 twist is going to be there. Your 2-2 quick is going to be there. Your 4-man wheel is going to be there. I really love the 3-3 4-man wheel. I'm going to have to figure out something else to run too, since I've been telling everyone I like to run it so much. But so those videos are huge. You could run the Rutgers 3-3 flip and swing. That was something that I just saw and was like, I have to know what that is. So instead of just looking into it myself, I just built it for everyone. But that one's kind of tougher. I don't know that would be a good one. So let's see. We've got 8 minutes left. So now we're going to go into some trick stuff. And I think that 8th graders can do this so well. So here's what you do. You tell your best 2 players, I want you to learn how to do a hidden ball trick. And if they don't know what it is, you go to TikTok, you go to POWLAX, you find the thing that's got 1 million views, and you have them watch that because it's a hidden ball trick, and it's filmed where you actually see the player who threw the hidden ball trick, and you don't see the player who's faking, and they score, but it shows the goalie who's then looks back like, what just happened? And hopefully that'll sell them on it. Then you can have them watch the whole, what is it? I want to say it's the video that gets the most views from all of my content, which is the 20 best hidden ball trick videos to show them what it is. And then there's a how to do hidden ball tricks video where I go through how to do every kind of hidden ball trick, right? That does not include the one where you stand on the ball, act like you pick up the ball, the ref blows the whistle even though he shouldn't, and then you act like the ball's being thrown. But so the Wesleyan hidden ball trick where you pick and you throw it into the other guy's stick, that one's covered. And then where you fake the flip and you fake catch it, yada, yada, all of those are in there. But they can definitely work. And if you're going to run a hidden ball trick at that level, you make sure you do it above the goal in the center of the field, and you don't even let them throw the ball. You do the one that's in that TikTok video where he turns the head of his stick over, he shields the stick and the ball from the goalie, and the other guy comes through and he acts like he takes it. But I'm telling you, at the at the 8th grade level, that will work. Everyone feels too old for TikTok. Here's the key about TikTok, and I won't say anything after this one sentence. Swipe up on what you don't want to see, like what you do want to see, and then it will become a feed just like any other feed. It's pretty simple. And if you're not on there, you should be if you got a business, because it's huge. And people thought that Facebook was going to be young long time ago, right? But now it's everyone. TikTok maybe will be everyone at some point. It's already got 1 billion downloads, so I'm going to be on it. So, let's see. That was just for Clark. So now let's see. The other one, last one. This is probably one of my favorite videos that no one watches, is the man down trick plays video. So basically, when you're man down, if you're in the offensive end, what are most defenses going to do? They're going to double you. And when they double you, if you can run 3 quick subs, which I'll explain in a second, you can free up an open man and open field easily. So here's what you do. Maybe I'll just have you guys go. Yeah, I'll just have you guys go watch the video because we got to wrap up in some other stuff. But so watch the man down trick plays video. It's very cool. It's a very cool way to get players open. So to conclude, I'm going to do another reminder, and actually let's go through a couple, see if there's any questions first, and then we'll wrap through. So answered that one. New players motivated. Okay, that's literally what we're going to hit again. And then, yep, we are talking to. And then that's weird. Okay, David, did I answer your question? Is that why you retracted that question? But yeah, so it looks like there's no other questions. So we're going to hit this part again. The most important key to coaching lacrosse at these age groups is that you provide an environment where everyone can thrive, and that in your brain, you are coaching for the lifetime of the player, not necessarily the season. Like, it has to be integrated where you're trying to do both. Like, you're not going to not teach something because you feel that that's a little too advanced to them. You've got to make sure that whatever you are teaching is not just some gimmick, right? You want to, like, so the Duke fade and follow offense, like I just explained, the reason you want to teach it is because it teaches a player to keep their head up and watch, and it teaches 5 other players how to move off ball if they're in this specific set. Now, you're going to go to another team where they teach clear through on any dodge, and that's going to be the wrong thing to do because they're going to fade. But the ability to make sure that you are teaching things in a way where they can learn it, and not it's just some gimmick thing like a zone for really young teams, is the key, is to make sure that you are providing an environment that's going to sell the sport to the player, because we want the player to keep playing. Like, I should probably put this bookcase behind. You know how everyone does their videos and they put the bookcase behind them because they want you to see the books they read. It's kind of the Goodwill Hunting part where he like walks into the office and he's like, "You read the books in the top shelf? I read the books in the top shelf. What do you think of them?" And they're kind of boasting at the books they've read. I don't really care about that. But one thing that's in every single book I read about the top coaches is they always want to leave the cabinet more full than when they found it. Right. And I think that's something that all coaches should have to do. And it's not that you need to get new things for the cabinet. It's that the things that are in the cabinet have to be, made better. And I'll tell you this, if you just run transition drills all day, every day, and you sell that kid on playing and he or she has fun and they just have fun playing, I guarantee you the next 9 months of that player's career will be more beneficial than any 9 months have ever been before, because they're going to embody the feeling of having fun playing the sport, and they are going to want to get on the wall. They're going to want to pass and catch with their siblings. They're going to want to get out and become a better player so that the next year they're going to be 10 times better. Now, if you make them stand around all day and you don't teach them how to think about interacting with other people and you just make them do something, that's boring. Kids want to play. They are professionals at playing. Also, this is a mandate. Everyone share my player perspective video. It topped out at like 3,000 views on Facebook. Not cool. Needs to get way more. Harry, that's cool, man. Harry just said it's early in Hawaii. Oh, yeah, awesome. We were talking earlier about the whole Hawaii thing. I got to make it out there at some point. All right, we have a couple more comments, and then we're going to end this right at 10. We'll end it when the Instagram thing ends. But so, how to best teach off-ball movement. The best way to teach off-ball movement is to go 2v2s where you're dodging, and then the other player's just reacting, because you have to show the initiation of the slide, which then will show space, which then will show filling that space. That's the way I think about it, at least. And then you can go into, straight line 3v3s, where then you're showing, the first slide, the 2, and then the guy who's free behind. Other than that, you can teach, dodging at someone and shallow cutting. It's all about teaching how one player will move in relation to another player, not how everyone can work together, because it's part whole, right? Everyone's reaction to the ball carrier creates the offense. It's not, and if you think of it in single terms, that means more to a player than you're in this spot, you have to go here. Oh, okay. You mentioned knowing when to cut and why it is hardest. Yeah, and so that's the same concept, right? So for off-ball, so the question is the same question, which is how do you teach off-ball movement? And he said he'd love to see how you teach it properly. Teaching how to cut also is all about kind of 3-step rule in my mind. You go 3 steps one way and then you cut back the other direction. For a lot of players. And then also draft cuts are huge, where you're cutting behind a player who's either dodging or who's cutting. And yeah. Cool. So that's going to wrap it up. If you want to buy balls, buy from Guardian Sports, buy the Pearl Lacrosse balls. They will never get greasy. You'll have them for years. Use the code POWLAX. It'll give you 10% off, and it'll help support the channel. Also, before I end this, actually, this is probably the biggest, most important thing. Thank you to everyone who has shared my content. The patrons that I've had have basically doubled in the past 6 months. It is unbelievable, the support. I can't wait to get out all these new videos once I'm done with this new project. There's so much in store, so much is coming, and I couldn't do it without all of you people who are supporting. So thank you so much for that. It means the world to me. I really do appreciate it. We'll be back next week. I hope that, hope everybody has a great week. And I think next week we're going to, I forget exactly what we're going to tackle. I will review it. But so thank you guys so much. Keep sharing all the content. If you guys need anything, hit me up on any of the social media platforms. And then if you want to buy a flip goalie, use code POWLAX as well.